An issue that a lot of guys can have is they'll read a lot of theory, but then they're not taking the action. And you want to get the balance right, so you want to be taking 90% action and reading 10% theory. And I don't think you should be sold on the idea that you can learn everything from a book, for example. I mean, books are useful because they will give you a theoretical background and understanding of what works and what doesn't work, but then you have to actually apply these things in the real world. And that's where you can get a bit lost if you're just reading books and that's the only way that you're learning or trying to learn the skill set, because it is a skill set, so you're going to have to work on different areas. And if you're reading a book and you're trying to identify what you need to do to improve, that might prove quite difficult, because that might be something that's actually a blind spot. So it might be a blind spot for you that you're not aware of. And to solve that, you are going to actually need to get feedback from both from women and from other guys. So you want to have a set of reliable, good wingmen who can give you some feedback on what you're doing, someone with a lot of experience. Alternatively, you should try and get some coaching, and it can be supplemental coaching to supplement the theory that you're reading, but you are going to have to probably get a coach if you're not making progress and you don't know why. Maybe you've read like a Bible kind of book that is really long, and you could probably sit an exam on this theory and score 99%, but then is that actually translating into real world results? Well, maybe not. So maybe that's when you should take a look at getting the supplemental coaching. And there are many issues that could come up that would be an example of a blind spot. So for example, a lot of guys who study this stuff, they're going to be on the spectrum, let's just say, and that per se is going to mean that they're not aware of the things that they're doing wrong. So for example, maybe what you think comes across as you being very smiley and charismatic isn't actually that to the extent that you think it is. Because, for example, if you are on the spectrum, you're going to have this issue of not quite expressing things with your facial expressions as strongly as a person who's more neurotypical, for example. And then you're going to get into issues such as you think you're doing what you read in the book, but in reality, in practice, you're not doing enough. So one simple example would be when you open, you want to smile. And if you haven't smiled properly, that might be something that's holding you back, because maybe you're coming across a bit too serious, even though you feel relaxed inside. But what you're feeling internally isn't coming out, isn't getting expressed externally to the extent that the person who's receiving it would like or would appreciate in order to be able to respond to that communication. So in this case, it would be the woman. And that's just one example. So I would really look into other forms of education, and don't just rely on reading a book and then thinking that you're going to nail everything that has to do with this area of life, because it doesn't really work like that. And I think anyone who's trying to sell you on that idea is full of shit. So if they've got, you know, a book that's hundreds of pages long and it's filled with exercises, and there's a promise of, oh, if you do all these exercises, you're going to get the results that you want, you're going to get your dream goal. I just wouldn't buy that, because it's not going to be enough, and that's going to come down to the reasons that I've stated. So I would be very skeptical. As I said, you want to be focusing on 90% action and 10% theory. So always keep that in the back of your mind.